Welcome to episode 3 of Becoming My Best Self series. In this episode, I'm showing you a week of easy, delicious, and satisfying high protein and high fiber, because we can't forget about our fiber. Protein and fiber, they go together like this. Whether you are a savory girly or a sweets girly like me, I have options for both. Okay, let's hop into Monday. Starting off the week with chocolate chip zucchini muffins. This is probably the most labor-intensive breakfast of the week, but it's also probably the best breakfast to prep ahead. Actually, there's one more breakfast that's also pretty good to prep ahead. I'm gonna put the full recipe in the description box below. This recipe makes 6 muffins, but if you want to double it and have breakfast for the whole week, if you eat 2 at a time, like I do, you are set for 6 days. Then make yourself something special on Sunday, you know? These muffins have a ton of fiber from the zucchini, the chia seeds, and the oats. It also has a ton of protein from the protein powder and Greek yogurt. You want to use any vanilla or unflavored protein powder. You could also probably use chocolate protein powder. I used koia vanilla protein powder. If you want to use koia like I did, you can use code NIK, N-I-K, to save online on any koia protein shakes or their protein powder. Now they have a few other goodies, so go take a look. Anyway, this recipe comes together pretty easily. You really just mix everything all together, bake it off, and then you are set. Please don't be afraid of the zucchini. You really don't taste it. It just adds that fiber like I mentioned, so that these are very filling. Then you get your little chocolate nibble here and there, which I feel like makes these muffins very fun. Each muffin has 14 grams of protein and 2 grams of fiber. So if you eat 2 at a time like me, you're gonna get 28 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber. If you add around 100 grams of most fruits, that's gonna bump you up to minimum 7, but likely around 8, 9 grams, maybe even 10, depending on the fruit. Moving on to Tuesday, this is not your normal bowl of oatmeal. Now, oats in themselves do have some protein. I use 2 of these instant oatmeal packs that equate to about 2/3 cup of dry oatmeal, and that provided me with 8 grams of protein and 6 grams of fiber. For me, as someone who weight trains 4 to 5 times a week, 8 grams of protein in one meal just does not really cut it. So a way to add more protein to this meal is I make something called egg white oatmeal. Basically, I replace the water that I use to cook the oatmeal with egg white. If you are a little bit skeptical of this, just do less egg whites and more water and kind of keep switching up the ratio until you have pretty much mostly egg whites and then just a little bit of water. To get the amount of protein that I'm looking for in this meal, which is 30 grams of protein, I do use about 170 grams of egg whites. This meal had, as I said, 30 grams of protein, and you're getting a total of a little bit over of 8 grams of protein from the oats, the fruit, and a little bit from the peanut butter. This meal is for my savory girlies. I grew up eating sardines, so I don't have an issue with them because of companies like Fish Wife. Tinned fish, canned fish is becoming more popular, and I'm definitely here for it. One of the meals that was considered like a special meal in my head when I was little, sardines with rice, but like the bottom of the rice was crispy, a fried egg, and lots of butter. This is a take on it to add some fiber, and then instead of crispy rice, because I just didn't feel like cooking rice, I used these bruschetta crackers. This is probably the lowest fiber meal that I'm showing you. Between the beans and the tomatoes, the serving I had, this was 5 grams of fiber, 37 grams of protein. For the next meal, we're going back to the basics, because let's not forget about the basics. The good old toast and eggs combo is a good one. The only downside of toast and eggs, in my opinion, is that when people think of eggs, they think, oh, I'm getting a high protein breakfast. Well, unless you are eating a lot of eggs, 2 eggs within themselves aren't that much protein. The way to bump up my protein is I'll also do some egg whites. I'll either just do like carton egg whites, or if I'm doing boiled eggs, I'll boil 4 eggs, and then for 2 of the eggs, I'll just scoop out the yolk. I do not throw it out. I'm not a crazy person. First of all, I don't like wasting food, and especially with the egg prices right now, I just add it to some kind of food for my kids. Like I'll throw it into pasta or throw it into their eggs. And you might think, well, Nicole, why don't you just eat the 4 hard-boiled eggs? That is quite a lot of food for me. Also, eggs do have a fair amount of fat. I prefer to eat a high protein, moderate to high carb, low to moderate fat diet. That is just what works best for my body. That's how I feel my best. And so I don't want the amount of fat from 4 eggs, but I want the amount of protein from 4 eggs. Anyway, on top of the sourdough, I just did some jam and a little bit of peanut butter, and I have a side of kiwi and strawberries. I think today I ended up doing about 120 grams of fruit. This meal ended up giving me 5 grams of fiber and 28 grams of protein. If I know I need a little bit more fiber like throughout the day, let's say it's Saturday and I know that I'm gonna have like a more fun meal at night that isn't gonna have a bunch of veggies or fruit, I will actually use keto bread, but it's basically fiber bread instead of the sourdough sometimes. Rounding out the week with a powerhouse breakfast, and it is the easiest breakfast to prep ahead because you can do everything the night before. This chia seed pudding, emphasis on the pudding because the way I make this makes it super creamy, super filling, and very decadent. It basically has a mousse texture, but you're getting 33 grams of protein and almost 13 grams of fiber, 8 grams of fiber coming from the chia seeds. I topped it with 75 grams of blackberries, which is another 4 grams of fiber, and then you're getting some fiber from the nuts that I also put on top. I decided to go with walnuts, but you can do whatever nuts. You can do whatever toppings you want to do. I just happened to do honey, blackberries, and walnuts because that's what I had on hand. I've also made this with pecans. I've also done strawberries on the top, whatever topping you want. The fruit on top, which you'll kind of see as a theme throughout this week of breakfast, having fruit on the side or on top of whatever you're eating or some kind of produce is going to bump up your fiber in any meal. And fruit is yummy. Like, I think everyone likes fruit. Anyway, using Greek yogurt and cottage cheese to make this chia seed pudding adds a bunch of fiber. The Greek yogurt is going to add a slight tanginess. The cottage cheese is really going to add a creaminess. I like to blend up the cottage cheese with some milk before adding it to the chia pudding, just so it's like smooth and rich, and again giving that mousse-like texture. Pop it in the fridge overnight. In the morning you can just add whatever toppings you want. You could leave it in the container that you used it. I just moved it to a different bowl because I'm eating from home and for the aesthetics, but if you want to make it super simple, just put your toppings right on whatever container you made the pudding in, and then you're ready to go. Full disclosure, I normally would not have a different meal like this every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, because that's just like a lot of effort. I would probably have 2 of these meals and then switch off, and then the next week maybe have another 2 and just switch off. But that wouldn't be as helpful for this video, so that's why I'm showing you a different breakfast every day. I do also have some other go-tos that aren't included in this video, so let me know if you want me to make another week of breakfasts with 5 other high protein, high fiber breakfasts.